Hey everybody, Andy Kvernen with another Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. I've mentioned several times in different places that I was on a moose hunt a few weeks ago, and one of the aspects of the moose hunt that was particularly exciting in the end actually had to do with it being particularly difficult in the middle. See, about day 2, a small moose with an antler about the size of my hand and another one dangling off the side, it was kind of a defunct moose, came walking through, and I had a decision to make. I could either shoot it, which it was perfectly gettable, I think I would have gotten it if I did shoot, or I could let it pass and trust that I'd have a better opportunity later in the week. Well, several days went by after I did choose to pass on that moose, and you start to play these mind games, and you start to get a little bit discouraged. Now, at one level, I was moose hunting. What's to be discouraged about, right? I was having a great time. But you start to think, man, I wonder if I should have shot. I really want some moose meat to bring home. I want to feel like I accomplished what we set out to accomplish. And you start to second guess, and the wind gets out of your sails just a little bit. Well, there was a moment in the hunt where I was up in a tree stand while my friend was with the guide, and they finally had another encounter with a moose. They didn't get it, but it came close, and it added energy, and we kept going, and the next morning we went out to that same area to try to call in that moose. And I tell you what, we bushwhacked. We walked hard for 6 miles through alder, up and down hills. I was sweating. It was exciting, and wouldn't you know, we had another encounter with a moose. Now, we didn't get it that time either, but we had energy to keep going. And it reminds me of a story in the Gospels in the latter part of the book of Luke, where Jesus has given his life at the cross, but now he's risen again, and the women go to the tomb and he's gone. And there's this kind of rumor spreading, well, Jesus isn't there, what's happened? And the disciples don't yet fully get what's going on. And there are 2 of them that are walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus when Jesus shows up. But they don't recognize him. And they have this long, elaborate conversation with Jesus. And finally, he teaches them what the Old Testament, what the Scriptures have foretold about the coming of the Messiah, about Jesus coming. And they still don't understand. Well, finally, they get to their destination, and we pick it up in Luke 24, verse 28. It says, "So they drew near to the village to which they were going, and he acted as if he were going further. But they urged him strongly, saying, 'Stay with us, for it's towards evening, and the day is now far spent.' So he went in to stay with them." They're tired. They're disappointed. It's been a long stretch. And they're wondering, what is to come of all of this? How does this work? And even after they've been explained to from the Scripture what was foretold, they still aren't there, and their hearts are weary. Now, listen to how this changes in just a moment. It says in verse 30, "When he was at table with them, he took bread and blessed and broke it, and he gave it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight." When Jesus broke that bread and blessed it, it reminded them of who he was. And all of a sudden, they could see. And they saw that Jesus was there in resurrected form with them. And it changed everything. How do I know that? Well, part of it's just obvious, right? I mean, this is exciting. But listen to this. And I love how the gospel writers and other narrative writers throughout Scripture do this. There's a detail in here that I think is just striking. It says, "They said to each other, 'Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the Scriptures?'" Now listen to this. "And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 who were with them gathered together, saying, 'The Lord has risen and appeared to Simon.' And then they told what had happened on the road and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread." Do you hear what I just said there? Verse 33, "And they rose at that same hour and returned to Jerusalem." Jerusalem was 7 miles away. What did we read just a little bit earlier? It said in verse 28, "They drew near to the village to which they were going. He acted as if he were going further, but they urged him strongly, saying, 'Stay with us, it's toward evening, and the day is now far spent.'" Just a little bit ago, they were tired. The day was finishing, and they say, "Jesus, let's just chill out. We're exhausted. Let's hang out here. You stay with us." Of course, they didn't call him Jesus because they didn't know who he was yet, right? But then, when Jesus opened their eyes, they had what they needed. And all of a sudden, at that very hour, at that same hour, the text says, they were willing to walk the 7 miles, to hoof it, to go and tell the others what had happened. Friends, I don't know what you're going through in your life right now. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you're discouraged. Maybe things aren't turning out exactly like you had hoped. Maybe you look at your past and you regret decisions you made and thought, you know what, if I would have just done this, then things would be different. I'm here to tell you, I'm here to remind you The resurrection changes everything. And there's nothing from your past that can't be redeemed by a God who redeemed life from death, the God who rose up out of that grave. And so let me encourage you today, look to Jesus and let Him change your perspective. Walk with Him and be energized by His resurrection, by what He has done. He's inviting you in. God bless you, friends, and Lord willing, we'll see you again on the Cornerstone Connection.